Welcome to the broadcast. This is Niger Innis, host of Niger Innis Presents the Trump Revolution, a part of the TvAbraham network. And we are so fortunate today to have on as a guest one of America's top patriotic intellectuals. That's what I call him, a patriot. He's not just an intellectual. There are a lot of those out there, but he's a patriotic, America-loving intellectual. Rod Martin, welcome to the program.
Wonderful to be here. Always an honor to be with you.
Thank you, Rod. Rod, you are the founder and CEO of Martin Capital, the Rod Martin Report. You are an investor, a technology entrepreneur, and futurist from Destin, Florida. Fox Business calls you the tech guru. Gawker once labeled you a brilliant nonconformist, while Britain's Guardian describes you as a philosopher capitalist. Blaze TV named you as one of America's leading public intellectuals. I will just add leading patriotic intellectuals in our country. And Rod also, with that outstanding resume, it's just not that's not all. He's also a founding father of PayPal. He was a part of PayPal's pre-IPO startup team, serving as special counsel to founder and CEO Peter Thiel. Again, thank you for joining us, Rod. Initially, with the kind of resume that you have, I can't think of anybody better to discuss the economy that we have. We just had the first quarter report, which was not good. And I don't know that it's fair really to call this the Trump economy. You can't call it the Biden economy either, but it's almost like a transitional phase that we're in right now. And I originally brought you on to discuss tariffs, discuss the Trump economy and the impact that tariffs are going to have on it. But you know what? My crack team did some research on you and stumbled upon a brilliant article that you wrote regarding our 50-year anniversary, which was just yesterday, 50th anniversary of our departure, withdrawal from Vietnam. Some might say dishonorable withdrawal from Vietnam. You wrote a number of things, number of lessons that we can learn from that withdrawal. And one of the things I found the most intriguing is that you said that before Richard Nixon had to resign due to Watergate, that we were actually in an advantageous position and we could have left that situation stable and with honor. Rod, please share your thoughts with the audience.
Well, you're exactly right. We didn't lose the Vietnam War on the ground. We lost the peace after. And you can argue about whether we ever should have been in Vietnam. That's a perfectly worthy debate that has nothing to do with how we left. Richard Nixon took over a mess, obviously. It wasn't the mess that the media claimed it was. Walter Cronkite pronounced the VC victorious in the Tet Offensive, and this war is unwinnable at a moment when the U.S. Army was mopping up the floor with the Viet Cong, absolutely wiped them out. They were not an effective fighting force for several years after and had to be supplemented dramatically by the North Vietnamese. So Nixon comes in. It's a mess. It's not as big a mess as some said, but still a mess. And he instituted his program of Vietnamization, which was let's get the Republic of Vietnam in a position to defend itself, just with our help, not with our troops, but with our help. And that was very successful. And it was particularly successful at the peace table. The peace talks with North Vietnam went on for eons, and finally Nixon and Kissinger had a huge breakthrough in Paris in January of 73 on the heels of Nixon's massive bombing campaign against North Vietnam in December of 72. And they finally get the point. They're like, okay, we need to deal with this. The peace was actually quite extraordinary. The North recognized the sovereignty of South Vietnam. The North promised not to rearm, not to bring in more Soviet weapons, not to continue the struggle, to close down the Ho Chi Minh Trail, to shut off all aid to what was left of the Viet Cong. And all of this had to be enforced by the U.S. supplying the South Vietnamese army and bombing any infractions. So if the North Vietnamese cheated and sent forces down the Ho Chi Minh Trail, we were treaty obligated to bomb them. If Soviets sent in more arms to the north, we were obligated to interdict that. And then Watergate happened. So, we signed this peace treaty where we really do have the potential for peace and stability and growth in Southeast Asia in January of 73. And by August of 73, the Democrats in Congress cut off basically all support to South Vietnam, completely eliminated any kind of enforcement with bombing or whatever, but also progressively eliminated 75% of our promised aid to the South.
I mean,
So when,
including replacing tires for Jeeps and fuel for
oh, yeah.
Jeeps.
Yeah, I mean, when the North Vietnamese invaded in force in April of 75, the South Vietnamese didn't have tires or gasoline or I mean just basic supplies. We had promised all of this stuff. And what's the cost to us? I mean, in the grand scheme of things, we lost 58,000 men in South Vietnam, and we just throw it all away because the Democrats are upset. And the irony of
Wow.
that being that the Democrats started the war in the first place.
That's
This
right.
was LBJ's war. And then at the end, they betray our allies and pull out entirely and leave these guys unable to defend themselves while the Soviets actually sent more arms and supplies to the north in that 18-24 month period than they had during the entire previous conflict. So it was just absurd. It was a huge betrayal, a terrible betrayal of the people of South Vietnam. And I mean, 2 million of them were so horrified by the communists taking over that they actually fled on makeshift rafts out into the South China Sea, where about 600,000 of them
Mm,
died in the water,
mm,
just
mm,
trying
mm.
to get to, hoping an American aircraft carrier might happen by. And of course, a lot of those people are now resettled in places like Fort Smith, Arkansas, and they're model citizens. They're amazing people, and it's
Absolutely. Yeah,
just
actually, I can attest to that, Rod. One of our future guests is going to be a lady from Florida named Tui Lo, who was part of that evacuation from Vietnam back in 75. She has become a great entrepreneur in Orlando, Florida, and she was so successful that she actually ran for Congress and got the Republican nomination for Congress. She didn't win the election, but she ran a great race, and we're going to have her on to discuss this as well.